Welcome to Jurassic Pod, a podcast 65 million years in the making. In the show, we excavate, theorize, and decipher the evolution of the Jurassic Park films and their fandom. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. Where have you been? If you're listening on the Jurassic Pod feed, make sure to subscribe to Least Important Things wherever you get your podcast. There you'll get all of our rewatch movie series and much more to come. This feed, if you're listening on the Jurassic Pod feed, will probably go dark after this summer. So please go to Least Important Things so you don't miss any episodes coming up. If you already are listening on Least Important Things or watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our movie rewatch episodes because we have a lot to come next season. All right, it's time for what you're here for, listeners, viewers. It's Rebirth reactions, raw Rebirth, ravenous reactions. Yes, we're a bit late, but we figured we had a huge weekend celebrating America's birthday and Tom Cruise's birthday. And we wanted to wait for everyone to see the movie before we talked about it and got our reactions out. And of course, I can't do this alone. I have my mercenary podcast partner, Mike Wynn. Mike, how are you?
Good. I'm doing good. I'm just glad to do this as a favor for you.
But I negotiated and we're going to get a lot of money.
Oh, okay. Then we're good.
Then we're okay. How are you? How are you feeling post-Rebirth?
Feeling good. Had a good time at the theater. We went to the we took the drive out to the premium theater in our area.
Okay.
Celebration South Premium.
Premium, yes.
Which had great audio. It was a good day.
I'm glad you splurged. I saw this at the Alamo Drafthouse in Wrigleyville, which is one of my favorite spots to go here in Chicago. Love the Alamo Drafthouse experience. They always have like pre-movie entertainment that's not ads. It's like old Mattel commercials and things like that. Just in framing of the movie, they had like a kill sequence where they went through all the kills in the franchise. So that was pretty fun, and I enjoyed it. I would say the movie was great. It was intense, but the most intense part of the movie was biking away from Alamo Drafthouse as soon as the Cubs game got out.
Wow.
That was the most intense part. I thought I was in a different movie. I was like, I just came out of Jurassic. I got on my bike and just the entire stadium
all of
emptied
North
out.
Chicago.
The police. Yep. It was like 95 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I was looking out for dinosaurs. It felt like I was in Jurassic, but I made it. I survived. Like folks may or may have not have survived. If you have not seen this movie, we're going to do our spoiler-free kind of overall review, and then we're going to have spoilers, so beware. Mike, I wanted to start with you. What's your overall spoiler-free review of Jurassic World Rebirth?
I think overall, I was thoroughly entertained. I enjoyed the movie. We will get into specifics and details, but in general, I just had a really good time. I thought that maybe, Luke, I read your review on Letterboxd.
Yes,
and
at Luke H. Ferris at Letterboxd.
Yep. And I think one way I would kind of describe my feelings around this franchise are it felt nostalgic without being nostalgic.
Right.
So if you're a fan of Spielberg, if you're a fan of the Jurassic Park series, there's a lot that you'll pick up on and will feel familiar to you, in like not a campy way.
Yeah, it's not jammed down your throat.
Yeah.
Like a lot of franchise sequels and legacy sequels we've seen over the past decade or so.
Yeah, but if it's not something that, if that's like my wife, for instance, she consumed the movie at the same time, had similar feelings to me, but didn't catch those subtle references. And so if it's not, even if it's not something that you're going to catch, like it's not going to be a distraction from enjoying the movie.
Right. It's not going to be like, oh, I didn't catch that reference from the second movie that's blatantly part of the plot.
Yeah.
Or that vehicle or that device that we saw a lot of in the previous trilogy. All right, my spoiler-free review is aligned with that, and my review on Letterboxd kind of talks about how I think Gareth Edwards did his best Steven Spielberg impersonation, homage in this film. I thought a lot of the great things you love in Spielberg cinema you're going to get in this movie. If you're a Jurassic fan, if you're a fan of any of Steven Spielberg movies, Gareth Edwards does a great job taking that history legacy of thrilling action adventure movies and makes a great tight film. I thought the script by David Koepp, who wrote on the original one, is one of the best writers in Hollywood. I thought it was clean, lean, and intense. It's exactly what I would want from a sequel. It doesn't go above and beyond to have all this exposition. It's really enjoyable. There's some amazing sequences. It looks really good, which I think I was a little bit worried about. I thought from that first trailer, if you haven't listened to our trailer breakdowns, I was concerned after that first trailer. Sometimes when movies are cut for trailers or the resolution changes or the way it's cut, it just doesn't look very good. Seen on the big screen, this is a big screen movie. It looked fantastic. There was a few things that we'll get into, but overall, it was a really enjoyable experience. To be honest, I had pretty low expectations going in.
Yeah.
I was more encouraged in our preview episode after seeing the second trailer last week, but I had pretty low expectations going in based off of the past 3 films, and I was pleasantly surprised. If you've listened to any of our Jurassic episodes, I've asked for getting back to the simple storylines, the danger of one dinosaur, a mission movie, and all those things really happened. So for someone like me who's a Jurassic fan, a Spielberg head, and loves just like a simple, clear-cut, to the bones action adventure movie, it's exactly what you want in a summer blockbuster. All right, are we going to go for spoilers here? So if you haven't seen it, pause, go watch the movie, come back, press play in your car as you're driving home, because it's spoiler time.
Spoiler time. Okay. Well.
Okay.
I think I read a couple of reviews about I'm going to call them the extras. It's this family.
The family.
That is on
the sailing family.
The sailing family. And my first reaction was that Edwards edited the film in such a way where in the first 30 minutes, there was way too much time spent on that sailboat, in my opinion.
Okay.
The difficulty with that is they are such a part of the movie going forward that if you don't have that time on the sailboat in the beginning, you don't care about them. But even still, I struggled to care about them.
Yeah, the family drama aspect of it.
The family drama, and what kind of frustrated me being a Spielberg fan and being a Jurassic fan was I knew the kids were safe, and nobody I wanted to die in that film more than the. Did you
think the boyfriend was going to die? So I was coming down the elevator from the Alamo Draft House here in Chicago, and I was talking with people who came out of the movie, and we're like, I can't believe the boyfriend didn't die.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I thought he was gone for sure within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, he broke. There was a couple. There's some horror movie tropes that were kind of broken.
Right.
One, he goes off alone.
Yes. Goes to pee, which in this franchise is death, especially if Carter's watching as I'm watch. But that is death immediately.
Yeah, and I know it's not a horror movie; it's a Spielberg film, but it's not, but it is in a way. But also, I know that he's we can assume that his character is 18, 19 years old.
Yeah. I
think
they're about to go to college is the idea.
It's implied that he's having sex with this 18, 19-year-old girl, which is not necessarily shocking, but is also okay, that's another indicator that
in a horror movie, in a slasher movie,
yeah.
You're dead. If you have sex, you're going to be dead. Especially if you're kind of the douchey, you come off as the kind of douchey boyfriend.
Exactly. So it's just I wanted him to die, and everything about the movie was pushing that he would die, and I wish he would die because they end up saving him, or not saving him, but he remains alive, and then I I also just don't believe that there's enough. We're gonna spend so much time on this guy that I just don't believe that there's like enough redeeming development about him, like throughout the movie. Like even after he saves, I forget the character's name, um,
The daughter.
Isabella.
Oh, Isabella.
No,
Yeah.
is it Isabella or uh Teresa? It's Teresa.
Yeah.
That's the older one. Isabella's the younger one. So after Xavier saves Teresa, like he's still kind of a prick.
Yeah, that's true. But I think that's the idea is like him and the dad kind of have this arc of it's okay, like just be who you are. He grows on you. I think
Yeah.
he's still a prick, but I think it's that's his arc is there's
Yeah.
more than meets the eye. He's not this stereotypical uh, slasher boyfriend from the 80s.
Yeah.
He's well-rounded. He's self-effacing and
I understand why the kids are in the movie because kids are critical to Jurassic Park films. But it does seem like they are put there as tokens.
you know what? I agree, but I think my favorite part of this movie is I would say our core three adult characters, which is Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, Jonathan Bailey playing those three characters with Dr. Henry Loomis, Duncan Kincaid, and Zora Bennett. The kids are important because of Duncan Kincaid's storyline, where
Yes.
he lost his kid, which I understand why people don't like some of this stuff, but I thought it was enough character development where we cared about these characters, but it didn't go in depth. It didn't feel like
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
connected. It wasn't over the top. It was very clear and succinct. Duncan Kincaid, he's a mercenary, but he lost his son and his
He cares about
split
these
up.
kids.
He cares about his
Yep.
kids, and he doesn't want to die in the jungle. And that's his little arc that we get is he's all about saving the kids. He has like kind of redemption at the end with the
Yep.
flare, which is a great scene. And we think he dies in the jungle and he gets out.
And he
Zora,
should have died.
it seems like that was a let's do some like testing and then see if people want to bring him back or not. It's whatever. I think it's a darker
Do you think
ending
they
to the
should
movie.
do you think they showed that um film with an alternate ending and then it ended up getting changed?
I'm sure. I think that was a test screening. I think they shot it both ways and said let's just do test screen, which like that works. Like and if everyone was like, oh no, we love Duncan Kincaid, we were really sad that he died, or I think more importantly, the movie ends pretty quickly after that, and that's a really dark ending of a character that you grow to love. I mean, it's Mahershala Ali. I mean, I really like the scenes with him and Scarlett Johansson as characters, like these mercenaries.
Yeah,
You
they were
feel
great.
deep connection, but it wasn't like this romance interest. And even with everything was pretty platonic, which I think is good. I think the problem with a lot of these movies, like smashing Claire and Owen together just because they're like typical
Yeah.
female male leads, like they don't need to be like this huge love interest. These are all colleagues and it makes sense. And I think each of them had a nice character arc. Maybe the dad didn't, but I thought the mini character arcs, not these sweeping narratives. It's not this big Oscar-winning drama. But I thought for an action movie, all these characters had good redeeming qualities at the end, which I think goes to David Koepp's writing and why it felt succinct and pretty tight as far as the movie goes.
Yeah, let's talk about the two stars of the film, Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali. I mean, we can include Jonathan Bailey in that.
Jonathan
as well,
Bailey stole
because
the movie for me. I
Really?
really, really liked him as a scientist. At the start, I didn't really like the setup. Like when they're at the museum, I felt like it was forced. I did think some of the jokes didn't land. I don't know how you felt. Like people in the theater didn't laugh at a lot of things that I
Yeah,
think were
nobody.
supposed to be jokes, right?
There was, and yes, there absolutely were jokes. I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way and say that they weren't funny. I don't typically laugh in theaters, even when something's like really funny. So that doesn't necessarily surprise me,
Because you have
but
no joy.
because I have no joy. No. No, it's just like I don't know exactly how to react. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The Yeah, but I would say in general, there seemed to be two or three people in my theater that did understand the jokes and laughed, but for the most part, they they didn't really land or they didn't breathe very well. I'm not
Yeah, and
exactly
I think
sure.
some of the score at the start, I think that
Mm,
in that first 30 minutes, the score's a little bit off.
yeah.
I think tonally, it doesn't really know what we're like. As an audience, the score helps me understand what's going on, and I think there's some tonal things there, and it's just hard. This is the
Did
seventh
you
film
notice?
in the franchise. It's tough.
I noticed this only because it's been on my mind ever since we saw it. Um, there was a, I can't remember exactly which scene, but there's a scene in this Jurassic movie, where there is, um, like these, the score incorporates these like guttural groans. Um, and I can't remember exactly where it was, but it reminds me of the submarine scene in, um, Mission Impossible, the Final Reckoning.
Yeah,
Um,
feels like it's a
and
new trope.
but to your point about the score in the beginning of the movie, because this was towards the beginning of the movie had a much um greater emphasis on like the horror element.
It did. It did. Definitely a darker tone, especially with the cold opening. But I
Yup.
think that's where some of the tone got.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the Snickers wrapper?
Yeah.
The tone of that intro, that cold open, is dark. It's intense, even with the logo being like blood red. And
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the how it all happens with the Snickers wrapper
It's
is
comical.
it's pretty
Yeah.
comical. And I think that's where the tone. It could. This movie could have been a lot worse. I think in the wrong hands.
Yeah. I mean, and we've actually been saying that for years, right? Ever since we found out that Garth Edwards was going to be the director, um, we knew that if another Jurassic movie came out, it was necessary to attach somebody with like real filmmaking chops to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Obviously, when you have a cast with Mahershala Ali and Scarlett Johansson, you know that the acting is going to be there, or at least the talent is going to be
Right.
there.
Right.
Um, yeah, it could have been way worse. But I mean, I there was a little part of me that with the Snickers, like that was my, by the way, if follow me on Letterboxd,
So
at
Mike WN.
no, I think it's at MIWY.
Okay.
I actually have no idea. It doesn't matter. Follow me on
It
Letterboxd.
matters. Follow him on Letterboxd.
But oh, it's at Mike Wynn.
At Mike
Mike
Wynn.
Wynn.
And as you know, Mike does, if you're listening to the show, he does one word reviews. That's his bit
That's my
on
thing.
Letterboxd, which
Yep.
is harder than you would think.
Yeah.
But your one word review for this film is
Snickers.
it,
I actually
it sets it
struggled.
all. It sets it all off. I mean,
I actually,
it's
yeah,
corporate sabotage. It's a
and I
different
actually
corporation
struggled.
sabotaging.
I struggled with my review for this movie because I sat there thinking, what is the theme or the word that kind of sticks out from the movie, and there wasn't really much. But so Snickers was mine,
Yes,
but
I think so.
I thought it was funny, obviously, that the Snickers wrapper getting sucked up into that duct, caused malfunction or whatever. Um, but yeah, I guess, I mean, it was weird juxtaposition, like you say,
Because it was
between
a
the tone.
horrifying scene. I mean,
Yeah.
the D Rex as it's named,
Yep.
which is awesome. It's easy for me to remember that one. Very scary, very cool creature design. We talked about it in the trailers when we broke those down. It looked a lot like the xenomorph.
Yep.
Watching this movie in full, it was a combination between the xenomorph and the Rancor from Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
It gave me those combinations, and I really enjoyed it. It was a really fun, big baddie to have.
Yeah, and I do kind of like that the theme, like, okay. So I've been thinking about this ever since I've seen this movie um the other day. So they kind of like what sets this up in the universe of the movie is that the general public has become disinterested with dinosaurs.
Yes.
And what we see in Jurassic World, if we go back to the first Jurassic World movie, is that they create the Indominus Rex because kids and the general public are becoming disinterested with just seeing the same old dinosaurs over again. They need to become newer and bigger and more aggressive and more fearsome. And I feel like this movie franchise is falling into the same trap that they are explaining
it's
in the
it's
movies.
layers upon layers. I think that's a big part of this franchise, but especially these newer movies, and this one does it as well. Is people aren't interested anymore with dinosaurs; they're all dying off. It's kind of this
Yeah.
idea that people aren't interested in this franchise anymore; they're all dying off. We need to, keep like it's all of simplification, right? This whole movie is about simplification. There's the rule of threes. They're trying to get DNA from three dinosaurs.
Yeah.
It's a mission movie. They're just going there to get them. Obviously, we meet this family, but it's super simple. It's this idea that no, we need to simplify, and we're getting DNA from just three dinosaurs to like make more money or solve a problem, right? That's the idea. Is that this bloated InGen, previous InGen, they went bankrupt. It is meta contextual that way. I
Yeah.
don't know if it has more for us to read into, but it's always been a part of this franchise. But it's interesting that it's folding upon itself even more so.
Yeah, and I say that because I don't necessarily know that this movie would have been any different. I don't know that it would have that the movie would be worse if instead of this occurring on a remote mutant research island, where you have these mutated dinosaurs that are, and this D-Rex that is mutated like beyond, like I don't know that that raises the stakes any more than just saying we have to go back to Isla Sorna.
Yeah, that's true. They could have just done that. I think they probably just this movie is it feels very at arm's length from the Colin Trevorrow's
Yeah.
trilogy. Like to the point where you're saying it would not. It's almost unnecessary to go to this new island. You could just
Yeah.
go back to the. It's like you can go back, but they want to just not have to explain anything
Yeah. And I
about
get
that
that
franchise.
they want somewhat of a blank canvas on it. And like the way the timeline in the movie kind of works, like it is kind of interesting. Like the park opens 30 years ago.
Right.
Um and obviously the park closes the next day, but
The
but
soft opening didn't go
but they
so well.
continue to do research. And here's what we know about
InGen
the canon,
Corporation.
about
Yeah.
InGen Corporation, right? Like they continue, the park closes, and pretty much on the same day or around the same time, let's say within 3 to 5 years, Site B, or Isla Nublar, also closes,
Right.
right? That's where the original research facility was, where they were, doing this stuff. But then apparently for 15 years, they were doing like advanced genetic research on this third island. Are we to assume
Yeah, because
that
that was
like
it was 15 years ago. At the
17,
start,
they said
17. So it
17
was
years ago was
yeah.
when
It was
this
early 2000s. So it's
D-Rex
essentially
issue
the same
happened?
time that the events of Jurassic Park 3 are happening.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit after that, but same kind of timeline.
Yeah. And are we to like assume that like that is a facility that's in effect run by Henry Wu?
Yeah, because when did Jurassic World come out? So Jurassic World, the first one came out in
2020.
2015. So how long do you think
Oh,
it took them to build that version of the park? That would have been at
good.
least a
Yeah,
15-year
good question.
project, right? So like yeah, they would have been already working on it. Like the the,
Yeah,
the group we
because
see at the start, they're working on the Jurassic World Park.
oh, okay.
So that's what they're doing. They're working on the Jurassic World Park. But they're like the experimental R&D side. So maybe they already at that point they had already built in Dominus
Oh,
Rex.
interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean timeline wise it's just a little funky, right? But I think I do think that Gareth Edwards does a good job of like you said, not getting into the weeds on this,
Right,
right?
because look how quickly we got in the weeds on this.
Yeah, it's really just it wasn't important to me. Most Jurassic Park fans who went and saw this are ready to put that Jurassic World, trilogy behind us anyway.
Yes,
So,
yes.
okay, let's just
Especially
move
this
on.
show.
We know that there's a lot going on these islands, and there's a lot of genetic research going on. But I thought it was interesting. what did you think about like the dinosaurs just kind of like invading regular day life?
I think it was handled well. I really like the nod where we got a cartoon explaining it at the museum, a
Oh
little
yeah,
nod to
yeah, yeah.
Dino DNA. It made sense to me that post Dominion, post Fallen Kingdom, that yeah, these dinosaurs wouldn't survive. It makes
Yeah.
sense. They would need to go to an oxygen-rich environment. It would have disrupted. I still think that would have disrupted the ecology of the Earth, and there would have been a lot more instability. And we get that a little bit more in Dominion, more of a
Yeah.
global impact. But I like how they just kind of they were like, let's just fast forward in that the dinosaurs are only in this small piece of international waters land
Yeah.
that you can't go at, and it makes
Which makes
sense.
sense because that kind of brings it all back. The reason why they chose, well, not the only reason, but a reason why they chose that location was its ecology. But
And I like how we have like a. I think that New York scene was really good. And
mhm.
they shot it in New York, which I thought was really impressive. Movies like do not shoot in New York anymore, especially big action movies. They shoot it
Well, they
at
didn't have to
Toronto.
stage the traffic. That was a big
That
budget
was it.
saver.
I kind of believe part of me's like Scarlett Johansson's like I actually we can shoot in internationally, we can do the jungle stuff, but any exposition scenes has to be based in New York so I can have 9 to 5 and like go home to my
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
In my heart of hearts, I feel like she was like, this is my contract, and they made it happen. But
Maybe.
it was a fun way to start the movie, especially seeing an older dinosaur that escaped. And I like this setup because it's again this movie's all about simplification. We have the rule of threes where it's like even they explain it. It's like we need water, land, and air animals.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
so easy to get into it. You do not have to have a backstory. You don't have to have extensive knowledge of the franchise to really enjoy this movie. You can go in, I think, pretty blank and just have fun. And it feels like a Spielberg movie. I read a little bit behind this. Spielberg was a lot more involved in this movie
Hmm.
than any of the world movies. Apparently,
Okay.
he met with Gareth Edwards. They talked. He looked at a cut of the movie. I think because this is David Koepp's script, Spielberg was a lot more hands on and wanted to make sure that it was good. To be frank, so that stood out to me is that this feels like a Spielberg movie, and if you watch a lot of Spielberg movies, like the setups aren't perfect and everything. I think a lot of people might not like the first 30 minutes of this movie. To me, there's a lot more egregious franchise movies that have first 30 minutes exposition dump. We love this last Mission Impossible movie, but it wasn't that. So to me, in comparison to Final Reckoning, we got to the action pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of Spielberg and franchise bits, but I didn't want to jump over anything else that you wanted to talk about, and then we can.
No, I wanted to I think the only other thing I want to talk about before we do that is just give me your take on I mean, you mentioned how much you love Jonathan Bailey in this movie. Um I thought Scarlett Johansson was the star of the film. I mean,
I
she
thought so
was,
too.
but like I thought so even more so than the other two. I really love all three of those actors, but yeah, I thought ScarJo was great. I was really concerned about her, not her, but like her in this particular franchise.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, I think I was a little bit concerned too. I was surprised that she would do another franchise after I think her. I mean, I don't think she had the best relationship with Marvel and Disney, especially in the Black Widow movie from a business standpoint. So I
Yeah.
think we were all surprised when it was announced that they got her to get back into a franchise like this. But her kids love these movies. She loved the movies. I think she did a great job. I thought the character was well written. People may push back on that, but I think here's the deal: if you put a man in, I'm not trying to get political here, but if you put a man in that role, I don't think people would have like blinked an eye. But I think sometimes when you have a woman in a lead action role, it adds like this controversy or people don't believe it. I thought she was great. I thought she nailed it, and I thought it was exactly what you would want from a lead hero, because they're mercenaries, and her conflict is about doing something good with her life.
Yeah.
She's coming in with baggage because her friend, and I really like that scene on the boat with her and Jonathan Bailey, when she's obviously emotional. He like comes and sits down, and she's like, I probably shouldn't come back this soon. But that's all we get. We don't get this like long story, because a mercenary wouldn't say like, give this long tale. Same thing when she's talking
she's not gonna overshare
with Mahershala Ali's character. He's like, I forgot the guy's name, but like, I heard about this guy. I'm really sorry. Like that to me is like, I think about action movies that I love, like Predator, for example. Like that's a different movie, obviously. That's 80s action movie, but Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger's characters, they have like history, but we don't need to know all the history. We just need to know it, and we have a 2-minute scene where we get enough to move forward to the adventure. Same thing with this, which I loved. And I'm a big 90s action movie, 80s action movie guy, and I thought that was the great part of this movie, is they kept it simple. I like Jonathan Bailey a lot because I guess I didn't really know how they would do the science character going in, and I thought his wonder helped this movie.
Yeah.
Bringing that wonder in the scene when they're in the long grass, I think that surprised me how good that was. It was the most like emotional, oh my gosh, there's dinosaurs scene yet. And I actually was pleasantly surprised with his character. I think he's a charismatic actor, but I think that character was pretty well written compared to a lot of other pseudo-scientists type of characters that we've had. It just felt like a real character to me.
Yeah, I agree. I still wish we had who is the character? He played a character on New Girl. Jack, is it something?
Jake Johnson.
Jake Johnson.
Jake Johnson.
Yeah.
I wish we
wanted to say
had
Jack Johnson. I wish we still had him.
I wish we had him too. He was great. He's one of the best parts of the first franchise. All right, I've got a bunch of stuff that I want to talk about. Just kind of like to hit some stuff.
I
already mentioned some kind of franchise nods, but a couple that I noticed is right at the start is in the mirror. It says objects may appear closer in Rupert Friend's car, which we didn't talk about him as the villain. I thought he was good. It was your classic Jurassic villain. I don't think it was like anything beyond. I thought he had a couple good sequences when he pushes or doesn't help the daughter. I think he has a real intense ferocity, like villain aspect, which I think that was a subtle way to show like he's a bad dude right away. You called it with the gun. I do have to say, shout out to you. The gun was in the helicopter that landed, and they grab it. You were spot on that, so that's gold star to you.
That's all I got going for me.
Loomis worked for Grant. That was subtle. I didn't get the whole line. I would have liked to redo a rewatch. I thought that was the closest they got to like franchise stuffing, but it was really quick and subtle. That was the only, which I was fine with, but I was like, okay, don't do any more of that. I don't need like your Ian Malcolm's daughter.
It kind of explains his character's like sense of morality, though.
Right. That's who's coming from. The cartoon explanation I mentioned.
Yeah.
We have the severed hand. Back nod to Sam Jackson's character when Rupert Friend gets eaten by the D-Rex. That was fantastic. Which you knew was coming. And they tricked you because he does the briefcase with the handcuffs. Which is, I was like, oh, it's gonna get ripped off. It does get ripped off, but his hand survives. And I was like, oh, they're not gonna do that. And then eventually they do get his hand, and I appreciated that. That was a fun one. Some Spielberg nods. Jaws. This movie is Jaws. Gareth Edwards talks about this because it was in the script. Is dinosaur in the water and there's a boat. We have both Jaws 1 and 2, the first Jaws and the second Jaws, because we have the sailboat sequence, which I really loved. I think the slow nature of building up to that was, I can understand where people were like, okay, can we get on with this family dynamic? But I love that whole flipping of the sailboats. I thought the water scenes were fantastic. They looked real. They felt like they were on the water. from a special effects standpoint, it felt really natural, and I was worried about that. But super intense water sequences. We have a baby dinosaur, very much ET, feeding candy to a cute baby dinosaur. It's essentially ET. Then we have Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade in the climbing sequence, where Loomis is reaching for the DNA, very similar at the end of Last Crusade when the Cup of Christ is going down. And Indy's reaching for it. And if you're watching it on YouTube, I have Indiana Jones right here. He's reaching for it, and his dad says, "Let it go, Indiana." That reminded me of that. And then obviously there's just lots of Jurassic stuff. I got to give a shout out to a friend of the pod, Jim Hargrove. If you listen back to our Jurassic Draft episode that we did 2-3 years ago, Jim drafted, and if you listeners, you don't know what this is, we drafted essentially the Rolodex of characters and plot lines to build our own new Jurassic movie. Now, Jim's was it was directed by Michael Bay, but it was pretty much a water movie. And this is pretty close to what Jim actually predicted. So maybe I'll pull together a short form clip this summer of Jim talking about that. But I think it was pretty spot on to what this movie ended up being as far as a plot line.
I've got another one for you.
Yeah.
Rupert Friend's character, Martin Krebs. Okay.
Yeah. Great name. Like that name. It's a good villain name. Martin Krebs.
Yeah. Martin gets in the car and drives with the frozen DNA samples away from being attacked by some dinosaur or whatever.
Yes.
And there's a scene where he drives by a sign that's got an arrow and it says "to the docks."
Oh yes, you're right. So exactly like Nedry.
Exactly.
And that's what I appreciate about these movies. They're all very subtle nods. They're not these overt. And I'm not trying to. I don't want to bash on the first Jurassic World franchise, but there was so much of this. This is from the movie you liked when you were a kid. I felt like this was much more of a homage, and it fit in with the action sequences. It fit in with the story. Yeah. They were really subtle. That's a good one. I didn't catch that one. We talked about the peeing scene, which wasn't necessarily my favorite scene. I thought like it looked a little funky because the dinosaurs in the backdrop, but
yeah,
and like it was odd. It was just odd. He was like peeing, and then like the raptors show up, and then the other dinosaur get him, and then he continues to pee afterwards. And I just thought it was a little awkward of a sequence.
Yeah.
He was very relieved. There was an ecstasy in that pee.
Luke, his life was saved.
I guess. We have the Spinosaurus, which Daniel from Stuck on Stoner wasn't able to join us, but a big shout out to him. I would have loved to see more Spino. Yeah. I think that was the big disappointment is we didn't get to see Spino fully on the land. That was too bad. A lot going back to Spielberg and this franchise, a lot of product placement in this movie. That's one of my. It's not really critique because I get it. This is a big budget movie. This is all about marketing. It's embedded into, but shout out to the PepsiCo employees for stocking that gas station on a privately held company research facility in the middle of nowhere, for stocking that gas station full of the highest quality of PepsiCo ingredients. We have Lay's chips, we have Mountain Dew, we have a lot of Dr. Pepper. It just really was well
not
stocked.
PepsiCo.
Yeah, so we have multiple. So there's multiple.
And I think Lay's is Frito-Lay. I don't think that's PepsiCo.
Okay, well we have it all. I was just really impressed with the snack game. InGen, spare no expense.
Oh, PepsiCo does own Frito-Lay.
Okay, that's what I thought. You got to get up on your snack corporate. And you could say, do they own Snickers? Because I was thinking this whole this is PepsiCo trying to sabotage InGen. It's like this big master stroke.
Does PepsiCo own Snickers? No. Snickers is
No.
owned by Mars.
Okay, so Mars. Maybe Mars is part of it.
Martians.
The Martians.
The Martians are behind the whole thing.
We've got a couple kills. I want to go through the kills. We have the douchey Aussie, Bobby Atwater, is killed on the boat immediately because he's the one who wants to kill the dinosaurs. He has like the darts that put him into epileptic shock. We get him right away. Delgado at the beach, which I thought was a great kill that we see off camera.
That was really good.
All these kills were not that violent. Like it was for being an intense movie, it wasn't that violent. Leclerc was killed in the climbing sequence. Another like intense one where you see him in the mouth, and then we mentioned Krebs gets annihilated by the D-Rex, which was fun. One of my favorite parts of the movie, and the thing that I would take from this movie if there was a prop section, in the research facility, there is a sign as you walk in that says "Creativity is king."
Yeah.
InGen. I need that in my backdrop right now.
No, my gosh.
I need that. It's so good. I want to talk about the sequences here. We've mentioned a lot of them, but kind of the big ones are we have the sailboat, we have the big boat with the mesosaur, and we have the long grass, more of the dramatic scene. I was surprised. I thought we were going to get a don't go into the long grass. That tricked me as a fan. We have the river raft sequence, which we haven't mentioned. Fantastic. Definitely one of my favorite sequences. It's from the first book. It lived up to my expectations. I enjoyed it.
Really, anything with the T-Rex, to be honest.
And I love it. It's a subtle T-Rex too, because it's just anytime there's just one T-Rex, I'm happy because they're scary enough. I like how this one was sleeping. I forgot which dinosaur got killed, but like there's a carcass of a dinosaur. Getting the boat, the inflatable raft. I love the shots of when the jaws of the T-Rex were like going through the raft. Yeah. It was a really fun sequence. We have the climbing sequence I thought it was enjoyable. And then we have kind of the finale, which is the facility with the D-Rex. They do a great job of creating this very horror kind of tone in that sequence through plot points where they're using hydropower, so it creates all this steam. And they have Zora's backup plan is to have a helicopter, and you know that helicopter wasn't going to last. But the D-Rex has it in its mouth like your dog probably has his like chew toys in his mouth. Yeah. It was fun. And the tunnel sequences, I really enjoyed that. I thought that was intense. Where we got that scene with Zora actually using the handgun that you called out. And anything I'm missing that stand out? The flares at the end, which I love. The give me a good flare. I thought that added intensity.
Yeah. I really appreciated there was a sequence, like this whole sequence didn't involve raptors.
Right. So this is a low raptor movie, I would say. Yep. Not a lot of raptor action.
And I was fine with that.
I was very okay with that. I know there's some raptor heads out there. I was like, we've done enough raptors. We need a break from raptors after raptor tears.
In fact, the raptors were in the movie, but they got thwarted by the whatever it's called, flying.
The flying ones.
No, the flying raptors.
Yes, the flying raptors.
But the animal, the monster that they kept being chased by, so they had the D-Rex, but then the monster they kept being chased by looked like a mutated hippogriff.
That's a really good way to describe it. It was fun creature design. Again, we're not going bigger, we're going different, which I appreciated. Obviously the D-Rex is huge, but they're playing a little bit, and they're using InGen to do that, to create more monsters, which we did see other different monsters that they could bring back in a sequel. The two-headed raptor being the one that stands out to me. Or that one with the
Mutodon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something there.
It was dead, but yeah.
Well, because it was like in the liquid.
Yeah, it was like dead, decayed. It was like a skeleton in the liquid.
There could be one out there. I don't know. I hope so.
You never know.
Big questions for me. There was not a lot of plot holes for being the big franchise movie.
Yep.
Just questions I have. I'm always a big fan of the corporations in this franchise. I love a good corporation storyline. The Biosyn storyline was my favorite part of Dominion. So it's Parker Gentex, is that correct? Was that the name?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
So, which again, this is a great movie where it was a self-contained story, but they gave us little hints of like, okay, there could be something there. Like all we know is Rupert Friend's character is the face of this corporation. I didn't even see a logo.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot to build on there. And the other big question is the temple.
Yeah.
What's going on with the temple? What's happening with these temples? Who built these temples?
Yeah, it's a really good point, Luke. I mean, it's probably purposely ambiguous, but it does leave something to be explored.
Because I thought I missed something when I was watching it, and I was like, did I miss something?
Yeah, you fell asleep for like a half hour. No, yeah, I noticed that when we were watching the trailers, they were like in this temple. There's something man-made, and it wasn't in-generated, right? So yeah, there's some sort of indigenous history to this island,
which would be interesting because there were carvings or statues of dinosaurs or things that looked like dinosaurs.
Oh, really? I didn't pick up on that.
That's what I thought I saw. So there might be some worship of the dinosaurs.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's interesting.
There's something there. They gave us enough, but they didn't explain it all, which I love. Like that's what makes a lot of these great movies. This movie felt like it was a brand new movie. If you took the Jurassic branding off of it, it's like monster movie, or like King Kong, where it's like or I've seen Gareth Edwards did Godzilla too, or like it kind of feels like that a movie in that range where if you took all the branding off, this could be a one-off adventure monster movie, which I think if you were able to pull that off within the context of a franchise like this, have it be entertaining, I'm impressed. It's not the greatest movie in the world, but this is what, if we're going to get a Jurassic movie, this is exactly what I would want. Not too over the top. It hits all the notes. It's fun. It's intense.
Sorry to cut you off, but ahead. Like at the end of Dominion, I was like, please, let's never make another one of these again.
Yes, I remember you said it on the show.
And after this one, I'm like, okay, like I'm excited to see where this could potentially go. If they never make another one, that would be refreshing that Hollywood did something interesting like that. But like I expect them to eventually make another movie, and I'm not totally like in despair about that.
Right, it's a much better feeling. This is, I think, a return to form, or return to the formula is probably a better way to say it. This movie reports have come out. Deadline, Variety reported. I think we're getting close to 150 million in the first 5 days. A pretty big weekend. It's back. It's a pre-COVID number. So this movie's done really well internationally, which is always true. So we will probably get another movie or a version of Jurassic. We'll see if they make it as fast as they did this film. I don't think so. Unless David Koepp's going to come back and write it, or Steven Spielberg's going to come back and direct it, or Gareth Edwards isn't come back. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. I suspect it'll be a new story, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Whether it's Mahershala Ali, I expect them to do a Lost World, meaning they'll take one of the three, our new Trinity, quote unquote. I mean, that's sacrilege to say probably, but our new big three in this movie, they'll probably pluck one for the next film, is my guess, depending on who wants to do it. I would be really interested in a Jonathan Bailey next film. He's the one who makes the most sense.
No, he doesn't, Luke.
He's the one who's most interested in dinosaurs.
Yeah, but that's kind of like the problem is he's got too much motivation to go back.
That's true. You need someone who, I guess if you can get Scarlett to come back, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, here's kind of like maybe something I've just had to kind of like come to grips with. Like this is maybe the best Jurassic movie we've had since The Lost World, Jurassic Park 3.
I would say so. I know a lot of people love Jurassic World, the first one. I think there's a lot of good
I
things in
liked
that
it.
movie. I liked it a lot. To me, when I think about this franchise, I think about franchise movies. Am I going to rewatch the movie that I just watched? Yes, I will
Yeah.
rewatch this movie if it's on TV. I will watch it. And to me, if this is a fun summer action adventure movie, that's an indicator if it's good. If I'll rewatch it.
Yeah. It's just hard for me as a fan of this franchise to realize I'm just a fan of Fast and Furious with dinosaurs.
Well, same company, Universal. They're trying their best.
And I wouldn't be opposed if we did a crossover. I've been saying it for a long time.
It's what's next. It's what's next. I don't. That would really be jumping the shark, pun intended, with the
Jumping the
Jaws.
mosasaur.
Yeah, jumping the mosasaur. But again, I think this is a good example of don't try to do something that is bigger than what it is. If you do what it is, call a spade a spade. We want horror, intensity, great action sequences,
Yep.
not overly complicated adventure movie.
Yep.
That you can bring your whole family to. Well, in my theater, there was families. Like it's there's not a lot of blood. There's not a lot of language. Like it's a movie you can bring your whole family to. It's very intense but fun at the same time. Don't try to do anything beyond. And I'm so happy we got a movie that went back to the formula, back to what makes Jurassic great. To me, this is more aligned with the first three. This is like the true legacy sequel.
Yep.
To be honest, you could cut out the last three movies and add this into the timeline, and it would make total sense. Which is, I think how they thought about it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Like, and you know, if you listen to Stuck on Sorna, David Koepp had other versions he was throwing around. Joe Johnston in the development of Jurassic Park 3. We don't know how much was brought into this movie, but there was other ideas for Jurassic Park 4 that were scrapped. This feels like JP4.
Yep.
And I think that's a good indication. It's not going to be the seventh film in the franchise. To me, it feels like the fourth, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, last words, my friend.
Last words. Snickers.
Snickers. I'm going to say, what would be my one word? My one word. I'll do 3 words. Creativity is king.
Yeah, there you go.
In Gen. We make your future. Thanks for listening, friends. It's amazing that we started this podcast feed, this rewatch series 5 years ago. We've gotten 2 new movies in that 5 years, and it's been quite a journey. Again,
some would say we got two new movies because of.
Some would say because, yes. If you're listening on the Jurassic Pod feed, thank you for sticking with us. Get over to Least Important Things because we have a lot more coming. We will be covering one-off movies. We'll be covering new franchises. There's so much more to come with Mike and all of the friends that you have met along this journey in Jurassic Pod in our other rewatch series. So stay tuned, more to come. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, friends, listeners, viewers. I hope you enjoyed this movie. I hope you suspended your disbelief and just went with the ride, because if you did, I think you enjoyed it. And as always, life will find a way.